All right, so today we are going to be looking at some defensive basketball drills to help improve your rotation, and to help improve your overall help defense, your movement on the defensive end. Now, these drills can be used with just about any age group, whether you're teaching basic defensive principles or you're trying to reinforce them. All these drills can work. Now, what we're going to do here is try to drift away from, your typical shell defensive drill. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I know that's a very debated topic. Some folks love the shell, some folks do not. But today we're just not going to focus on it. We're going to be looking at some defensive basketball drills that, enforce your teams to actually help, right? We're going to give the defense we're going to give the offense rather the advantage. So the defense has to step in and help, right? We want to test your defense. We want to get your defense moving so that they have to actually, help, right? It's different to just talk about it, or even with the shell, sometimes it's like you're doing situational things over and over and over again, right? But with these particular drills, we're going to give that offense the advantage. So our defense has to read and react, which is what you want. You want sharp players. You want a sharp team who can react to different situations. Okay, so let's take a look at these drills to get the defense engaged and get the defense helping. All right, so for this defensive basketball drill, we are going to look at testing the help defense. Okay, so what we want to do is we don't just want to play that same shell defense over and over again, where we're just going through the motions and doing the exact same thing. We want to test the defense. We want to make sure the defense is actually practicing real game-like situations where they have to step in for the help and then rotate accordingly. So that is what we're going to look at here with this particular drill. Okay, so what we can see right now is we're going to start with the ball in number one's hands. We have two teams right now. We have the white team and the blue team. Okay, and what we're going to look at here is number two, having to read and react and step in for the help. Okay, so to do that, we are going to give the offense the advantage. So, we want, again, our defense to have the help, right? We the only way to do that is to give the offense that advantage. So what we're going to do is have number one on the blue team, they're going to touch the floor, right? So they're going to come and touch the floor right here to give number one that advantage. Okay, now how is our defense going to react? Well, really the test is going to be on number three on the blue team right here to play that help defense, as well as number four on how to rotate. Okay, so number one, like I said, we're going to touch the floor right here and give number one that advantage. So number one on white is going to want to drive into the paint. Now, what we want number three to do here is step up and stop ball immediately, because we don't want to let the offense have a wide open lane to the basket and build that momentum, right? That's not what we want to do. But then again, we also don't want to leave a wide open lane right here with no help. So what we'll have then is number four drop back into that two pass away position. So number four is going to drop back here, and number one is going to recover. So then if the ball gets swung over to number four, number one can close out. So we read and reacted, right? So that's what we want our defense to do. We want our defense to cover like that. So let's go back and reset again. Okay, so we had the ball right here. Okay, we have number one guarding number one, obviously. Okay, we have number three right here, two passes away. Number four right here. Okay, so we're going to start again, touching the line right here, touching the floor to give the offense the advantage. So one now is going to drive into the paint. We want number three to come close out right away and number four to drop back. Right, when number one recovers, we want them to kind of fill that gap a little bit so they can help out here if needed. But if the ball swings over to number four, right, number one can close out, and then we are completely reset. So what we want to teach here, our key teaching points, is to stop ball immediately. Because if we just had number three kind of stay back down here, right, we're going to let number one have so much momentum to drive to the basket that, there's not really a point of having this help here, right? So we want to, teach our defense to, immediately stop ball, right? And then everybody else rotates accordingly. Okay, so that should be the defense that, you want your team to react with, when this drill is happening. But then we're going to let them play a live 4-on-4 to see what happens after that. Look for those teaching points. Are we stopping ball? right? Are we rotating accordingly, right? Are we filling the gaps, right? All these things, all these different points that you want to teach in your defense, right? Continue to implement them here. Look at here is a 2-on-2 drill that is going to create an advantage for the offensive team here, so that the defense has to read and react, right? That's what we want. We want the players to read and react and play in real-time situations. This drill is great if you're working with a youth team that you're just kind of teaching help defense to, and you want to kind of lock in those principles. But it's also good for an older team as well if you want to kind of reiterate on those principles, kind of get them warmed up on the defensive end, and get them practicing real-time situations. So we're going to have two teams here. As we can see, we have a blue team and a white team, right? We're going to have our defenders on the outside right here. So our blue team, they're going to be the defenders. We're going to have our offensive team here on the inside. Okay, so what's going to happen? We see the cones here. There's a cone directly across from each player, and that's because each player is going to run up to that cone and circle around it, okay? So at the same time, number one here is coming to their cone, they're circling around. Number one here is coming to their cone, they're circling around. Number one here is coming to their cone, they are circling around this way, and number two, and number two here is coming to this cone, and they are circling around. So keep in mind that the blue team is our defenders. So this blue player is coming here. We got white number one is coming up here, right? White number two with the basketball, right, is going to be dribbling up here, and blue number two is going to be right there. So we have everybody at the cones right now where they're about to wrap around. Now, as you see here, right, number two on the white team is going to have that advantage behind number two, or rather in front of number two on the blue team. So number two, if we're just going to stay in a man-to-man setting, right, number two is just going to have a wide open lane. If number one here on blue focuses on covering number one on white, number two is going to have a wide open lane to the basket. So maybe the first time that you run this with your teams, the first time you execute this drill, maybe that will happen. Maybe you'll have number two take that wide open lane to the basket. But chances are the second time, the blue team is going to understand we can't let that paint touch happen. So this number one player, number one on blue, is going to come here and stop the basketball so we don't get a paint touch, right? Then we can either get a switch, or number one and number two can communicate to switch back. So what we want to teach here is that read and react, right? The first time it might happen where, you get that wide open lane to the basket, but the second time and the third time, your team's going to understand what needs to happen, right? Your team's going to understand where to pick things up on the defensive end and how to play help defense. So you're teaching them how to play, not having them kind of move through the motions robotically. Now let's look at my personal favorite drill to teach help defense. Now, when I teach help defense, I want to go over the same basic concepts of our help defense that we incorporate with the shell. Meaning we really want to focus on positioning, we really want to focus on helping, we really want to focus on communication, right? But one thing that we want to focus on that the shell doesn't have is read and react. We want to teach our athletes how to help by being able to read and react on the defensive end, just like you'd want to do on the offensive end. You don't want to teach your athletes plays on the offensive end because then they get super robotic. Yes, you can incorporate plays into your offense, but you can't do that without teaching them how to play. So we want to do that exact same thing on the defensive end. We want to show them how to play, how to help. Now to start, we're going to do this in a 2-on-2 setting. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here with the basketball in the hands of number one. Now, to start our 2-on-2, what we're going to do is have number one on defense, which here we have our blue players on the defensive end. Number one is going to move right next to, we'll actually have it on this side. So we'll have number one move up right next to number one on the white team, and they're going to touch the floor with their hands. So we're going to give the offense, which is the white player, number one on the white team, we're going to give them the advantage. So we're going to allow number one on the white team to get a paint touch. Now, what this is going to force number two right here to do is help. They're going to have to step in and provide a help in order for number one not to just get a wide open layup. So they're going to end up stepping in here to help, or if even better, maybe they can pick up number one before they even get that paint touch. So maybe the first 1 to 2 times that you teach this to your team, number two might not actually help. But then number one will get a wide open layup. They're just going to get a lane to the basket. So the second time this happens, now number two on the blue team, they're going to be more eager to help. So they're going to most likely fill in here and provide a help. And then we'll probably have a switch. Number one will switch on to number two. And then that way, your team is learning to communicate. Your team is learning to read and react, right? We'll continue to play this. Now, what we'll typically do here is to encourage defense is either you get a point by getting a stop on the defensive end, or you turn to the offensive end only if you get a stop on the defensive end. Otherwise, the offense can just keep having the ball back to score over and over again. So let's take a look at this one more time. What we want to preach here, and then we'll probably even see our number two player here move back a bit because they know what's coming, right? Number one is going to have the ball. Number one on the blue team, they're going to start with a paint touch. And number two knows that they're going to have to step in for a help probably before they even get in the key, right? You might have number one not step on to help to number two right away, but during the second or third possession, you will teach them what to do. And in an ideal world, we have your players then switch. They read the situation, they reacted, they communicated through it, and now we're set up in a perfect defense on a 2-on-2. So rather than teaching a shell where you're just doing the same thing over and over again, we're putting it to the test now. And we're starting small in a 2-on-2, and then we can actually incorporate more players and try it in a 3-on-3.